Revelation 18, Amplified Bible. Then I saw another angel descending from heaven, possessing great authority, and the earth was illuminated with his radiance and splendour. And he shouted with a mighty voice, "She is fallen, mighty Babylon is fallen. She has become a resort and dwelling place for demons, a dungeon haunted by every loathsome spirit, an abode for every filthy and detestable bird. For all nations have drunk the wine of her passionate unchastity, and the rulers and leaders of the earth have joined with her in committing fornication, idolatry, and the businessmen of the earth have become rich with the wealth of her excessive luxury and wantonness. I then heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out from her, my people, so that you may not share in her sins, neither participate in her plagues, for her iniquities, her crimes and transgressions are piled up as high as heaven, and God has remembered her wickedness and her crimes, and calls them up for settlement. Repay to her what she herself has paid to others, and double her doom in accordance with what she has done. Mix a double portion for her in a cup she mixed for others, to the degree that she glorified herself and reveled in her wantonness, living deliciously and luxuriously. Sorry. To that measure impose on her torment and anguish, and tears and mourning, since in her heart she boasts, I am not a widow, as a queen on a throne I sit, and I shall never see suffering or experience sorrow. So shall her plagues, afflictions, calamities come thick upon her in a single day, pestilence and anguish and sorrow and famine, and she shall be utterly consumed, burned up with fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her, and the rulers and leaders of the earth who joined her in her immorality, idolatry, and luxuriated with her, will weep and beat their breasts and lament over her when they see the smoke of her conflagration. They will stand a long way off in terror of her torment, and they will cry, Woe and alas, the great city, the mighty city Babylon, in one single hour, how your doom judgment has overtaken you. And the earth's businessmen will weep and grieve over her, because no one buys their freight cargo anymore. Their merchandise is of gold, silver, precious stones and pearls, of fine linen, purple, silk and scarlet stuffs, all kind of scented woods, all sorts of articles of ivory, all varieties of objects, of costly woods, bronze, iron and marble, of cinnamon, spices, incense, ointments and perfume and frankincense, of wine and olive oil, fine flour and wheat, of cattle and sheep, horses and conveyances, and of slaves and bodies and souls of men, the ripe fruits and delicacies of which your soul longed have gone from you, and all your luxuries and dainties, your elegance and splendour are lost to you, never again to be recovered or experienced. The dealers who handled these articles, who grew wealthy through their business with her, will stand a long way off in terror of her doom and torment, weeping and grieving aloud, and saying, Alas, alas for the great city, that was robed in fine linen, in purple and scarlet, beckoned, and glittering with gold, with precious stones, and with pearls, because in one single hour of their vast wealth has been destroyed, wiped out, and all ship captains and pilots, navigators, and all who live by seafaring, the crews and all who ply their trade on the sea, stood a long way off, and exclaimed they were watched. And exclaimed as they watched the smoke of her burning, what city could be compared to the great city? And they threw dust on their heads as they wept and grieved, exclaiming, woe and alas, for the great city, where all who had ships on the sea grew rich through her extravagance. From her great wealth, in one single hour, she has been destroyed and has become a desert. Rejoice, celebrate over her, O heaven, O saints, people of God and apostles and prophets, because God has executed vengeance for you upon her. Then a single powerful angel took up a boulder like a great millstone and flung it into the sea, crying with such violence, shall Babylon the great city be hurled down to destruction, and shall never again be found. And the sound of harpists and minstrels and flute players and trumpets shall never again be heard in you, and no skilled artisan or any craft shall ever again be found in you, and the sound of the millstone shall never again be heard in you, and never again shall the light of a lamp shine in you, and the voice of bridegroom and bride shall never be heard in you again, for your businessmen were the great and prominent men of the earth, and by your magic spells and poisonous charm all nations were led astray, seduced and deluded. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of those who have been slain, slaughtered on earth. So some of that seems a bit dodgy to understand. That's why I've got this to read by Hilton Sutton. So this is obviously not from me, but it's a good teaching syllabus, you see. So highlights of Revelation 18, informational chapter, obituary of the world religious system or harlot. A, God's children called out prior to harlot's fall, verse 4. B, destruction occurs in one day, verse 8. 1, a mid-tribulation event, false church destroyed to clear the way for the Antichrist to announce he is God. Number 2, mourned by many, verses 10 to 16. C, harlot will never again exist, verses 21 to 23. D, harlot responsible for deaths of all that were slain, verse 24. 1, false religion always vicious and extremely hostile. Highlights of Revelation 18 by verse. Revelation 18 continues the story of the previous chapter. Verse 1, again John sees the angel of Revelation 14:8. The earth is lightened with his glory. Verse 2, the angel reveals the harlot to be stronghold of devils, more correctly demons, and every foul spirit. Verse 3, without exception, the harlot has affected every nation. Her possession of an abundance of the finer things of the earth reveals that she thrives on sensual rather than spiritual things. Verse 4, God calls out the number of Christians associated with the harlot. Unless they leave her ranks, they will be judged as partakers with her. Because the harlot is destroyed at mid-tribulation, we know that the event described in this verse occurs before that time. Verse 5, God anticipates the harlot's destruction. Verse 6, God rewards and judges her with double her works. Verse 8, her total destruction takes place within a day. Verses 9 and 15, these verses indicate that her death possibly involves the use of nuclear weapons. Verses 10 and 17, the city which headquarters the harlot is destroyed in 1 hour, probably to avoid the radiation of the nuclear blast. Merchants watch the burning city from a distance. Verses 10 to 20, they lament over her death because she was their source of income and wealth. This passage refers to the sensual attributes which mark the harlot's existence. The fruits for which men lusted have been utterly destroyed. Verse 20, as men weep and wail on the earth, heaven begins rejoicing over the harlot's destruction. Verses 21-23, a mighty angel testifies that the harlots will never exist again. The last phrase of verse 23 states that all nations were convinced of the harlot's spirituality by sorceries. This tells us that the harlot's religion was witchcraft. Verse 24, this false church caused the deaths of all the martyred saints. This church exhibits the same characteristics as its leader Satan, a liar and murderer. I'm Northern Hero, and I will see you again for more reading from the book of Revelation. See you soon.